Good evening. Let's slowly begin. Thank you very much. Now, a very, very warm welcome to the London School of Economics. It's now officially the hottest day ever recorded in this country in June. Probably not a reason to celebrate, we all know about that, but certainly a good reason to have the kind of event we're about to start. Welcome and good evening to the very first ever C40 and LSE Cities Nicky Gavron Memorial Lecture on A City for All, Leading Climate Innovation. Given the hot temperature, I should also welcome a really large audience online. We don't see you, but I hope you can hear us, and we will listen to you later on as well. For those in the room, there are no fire drills planned, so if there is an alarm, it's real. My name is Philipp Rode. I'm the Exec Director of LSE Cities, a center here at the school I run with Nicky Gavron. And for this very special evening, we could have not wished for more appropriate speakers and a panel. Anne Hidalgo, the transformative mayor of Paris, who stepped down only a few months ago, will lead the substantive part of this evening with her reflections of being at the helm of governing Paris. Yvonne Aki-Sawyerr, co-chair of C40 and mayor of Freetown, and Kate Gallego, mayor of Phoenix, Arizona, and member of the C40 Steering Committee of Mayors, will then join us for a panel discussion. I will introduce all three of them in more detail a bit later. Allow me first to introduce the Nicky Gavron Memorial Lecture Series, then the proceedings for tonight, and then hand over to David Miller, the former mayor of Toronto, for his opening remarks. The Nicky Gavron Memorial Lecture is an annual event hosted by C40 Cities and LSE Cities, and it's dedicated to honoring the life and legacy of Nicky Gavron, the visionary London politician, former deputy mayor and founder of C40, renowned for her pioneering work in urban planning and environmental policy. I'm delighted that for tonight's special occasion, Nicky's two daughters, Jess and Sarah, are with us, as well as many members of the family and certainly friends of Nicky's. Each year, we invite a prominent urban leader, scholar or thought leader to engage with themes central to Nicky's work: climate action, city diplomacy, urban governance innovation, and community engagement, fostering dialogue, international exchange, and nurturing the next generation of urban decision makers were values that Nicky championed. By bringing together to share experiences and ideas on the future of cities and urban societies, the series aims to pay tribute to Nicky's values. Thank you very much to Mark Watts, C40's Exec Director, for being absolutely instrumental for making this series happen. You will hear later from him as well. Now, besides leaving her mark on London government, on C40, Nicky has also left a legacy at the LSE. With her enthusiasm, she enabled colleagues from the Grantham Research Institute and from LSE Cities, including Graham Floater, Dimitris Engelis, and myself, to work closer together. We set up the Economics of Green Cities program, which ultimately became the urban component of the Global Commission on the Economy and Climate, chaired by Nick Stern and the former Mexican President Felipe Calderón. In terms of tonight's structure, we'll hear from David Miller in a moment for opening remarks. Anne Hidalgo will then deliver her main talk. We'll then have a panel discussion with Mayor Aki-Sawyer and Mayor Gallego, which will also include a Q&A, as we always do it here at the school. Finally, Mark will close our event with some final comments. David Miller was Mayor of Toronto from 2003 to 2010 and served as chair of C40 from 2008 until 2010. Under his leadership, Toronto became widely admired internationally for its environmental leadership, economic strength, and social integration. He's a leading advocate for the creation of sustainable urban economies and leads the C40 Centre, which is C40's own think tank, helping cities shape urban policy on climate change and public health, fostering resilient urban economies and creating strong climate narratives. David, in many conversations I've had with him, always emphasized we need to prepare our narratives for the events that are likely to happen. And I don't think, David, you could have manipulated a better occasion for Climate Week than having these extreme temperatures to give us a very good reason to advance our agenda and to think better about it. David, over to you.
Thanks very much, Philip, for that gracious introduction and warm welcome. I guess we're all going to be making warmth jokes this evening. It is a real honor to be, first of all, at London School of Economics. This is the first time I've been to this august institution, and I very much appreciate the invitation, but particularly to be opening the inaugural lecture in favor of my friend Nicky Gavron, the former Deputy Mayor of London and the mother of C40. I knew Nicky very well indeed, and every single time I saw her, she was passionately advocating for her latest idea or cause. Passionately, charmingly, and for those who knew her, relentlessly. Before I give a few thoughts about Nicky and her legacy, I do want to acknowledge some other elected officials and former elected officials in the room, some of whom have been mentioned. Shirley Rodriguez, also former Deputy Mayor of London, Anne Hidalgo, the great Mayor of Paris, Yvonne Aki-Sawyer, the great Mayor of Freetown, and Kate Gallego, the great Mayor of Phoenix in the United States. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge that the United States is hosting the World Cup, Mayor Gallego's country, and it looks at the moment like France is going to win the World Cup, Mayor Hidalgo's country. But don't boo me. If you watched England last night, you know full well where I'm coming from. I'd also like to acknowledge a very newly elected official, Eloise Walden-Day, who until Friday works for C40 and was recently elected for the Green Party in Southwark Council. And Eloise, I don't know. Yes. Thank you and congratulations. Electing the right people really matters, and we saw that with Nicky's life. As Philip mentioned, and I think as many people here know, the creation of C40 Cities in 2005 by then London Mayor Ken Livingstone actually started with Nicky. It was her idea to bring the mayors of the world's biggest cities together to use their voices and their actions to help the world avoid climate breakdown. And that's still essentially the mission of C40 Cities, to use the voices and the actions of the mayors of the world's major cities to help the world avoid climate breakdown. That was an idea she pursued with Ken. I wasn't there, but I'm sure it was passionately, charmingly, and relentlessly. What might be less well known is that this idea came out of a unique collaboration at the time between London and Toronto. Again, at Nicky's instigation, Mayor Livingstone was thinking about how London could drive climate action within London as a city government. He tasked his policy advisor, Mark Watts, who's now the executive director of C40, to explore what city in the world was doing the most on climate, and his answer was Toronto in Canada. London contacted us, and as a result, we ended up sending our climate lead on a 6-month secondment to London to help Mark and the city draft London's first climate plan. Out of this successful collaboration came Nicky's idea of the broader international collaborations, which fairly quickly, after a couple of iterations, became C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group, founded by London and with Toronto and Paris as two of its founding members. I've been with C40 since its inception, as mayor, as chair, as a member of the board, and now as staff, and I've attended nearly every major C40 event. Nicky was always at these, and always with a new idea or a new angle. Something C40 needed to act on, and she would pursue me passionately, charmingly, and yes, relentlessly. One of her great strengths was that she came to climate action from the community. She started her political career as a community leader and brought that knowledge, those connections, and that instinct to her political work. And I understand from her daughters that really came because of both her upbringing and the way she ran her own house, welcoming people into the house as her mother did, to stay for long stays. The house always had people, and she treated everybody exactly the same. It didn't matter if you were a business leader or if you had the most humble job. She saw you as a person worthy of listening to and worthy of being treated with respect. And some of her best ideas came from listening to the community. She intuitively understood that climate action must be grounded in solutions that work for the vast majority of people. And in a meaningful way, this must include engagement with them and listening to them. Perhaps that's why she liked city-based climate action, including the international alliance she helped build. Because at their best, city governments are actually grounded in community and neighborhoods and in listening. Today, that insight that she had from the beginning is having a revival. We see cities globally realizing that climate action is most effective when it is supported and driven by communities and when they help lead and develop it. For example, the ULEZ in London only started to get positive traction when the community weighed in through organizations like Black Maternal Health, saying we care about air quality because it's our children whose health is being risked. Nicky started with community and came to cities. And today, many cities started with climate action and are going back to community. That's an enduring testament, not only to her insights, actions, and beliefs, but also to her effectiveness as a local politician. The city-based climate movement, and C40 in particular, which is now 97 of the world's major cities, owes much to her insight, her passion, and that relentlessness. We see Nicky's personal qualities, or at least I do, in all of our speakers tonight. All are climate leaders, all understand community, all are passionate, all are determined, and all are women. Like Nicky, they're passionate about ensuring that their communities deal with the climate challenges and the climate crisis in a way that supports everyone. And like Nicky, they are incredibly effective climate leaders for the residents of their cities and for the world. From my perspective, the keynote speech from Mayor Hidalgo and the discussion afterwards honor Nicky perfectly. These are women, great women leaders who are effective, passionate, and determined. It's been a privilege to be able to say a few words as part of this celebration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David, for these very kind words about Nicky. So let me introduce the main speaker for tonight. Anne Hidalgo served as mayor of Paris from 2014 until stepping down just a few months ago in March 2026. She was the first woman to hold the office. Following her election to the Paris City Council in 2001, she became a deputy mayor in the administration led by Bertrand Delanoë. Born in Spain, she grew up in Lyon. After studying in Lyon and Paris, she worked as a labor inspector before taking on a series of specialist roles at the Ministry of Labor. A member of the Socialist Party since her youth, she went on to advise a succession of government ministries from 1997 to 2001. Her tenure as the mayor of Paris produced a long list of internationally celebrated achievements in urban leadership. She oversaw both the winning bid for and the hosting of the 2024 Summer Olympics, launched her Reinvent Paris program, which found new uses for obsolete spaces, and introduced multiple democratic innovations from participatory budgeting to a permanent citizen assembly. Above all, her name is today inseparable from the ongoing physical transformation of Paris, the steady reclaiming of the banks of the Seine, which, if you saw the news over the last few days, is just incredible. People swimming and enjoying themselves in the heat, yes. A cycling revolution driven by her Plan Vélo that has seen cycling overtake car use for most inner city journeys. The piloting of a new global urban planning paradigm. Which mayor has done that? The 15-minute city. The greening and depaving of the city and the creation of many, many school streets, ensuring that kids are safe and happily arriving when they go into their education programs. At the same time, of course, like most mayors, she had to lead through a series of profound crises. The 2015 Bataclan terrorist attack, the recovery efforts following the 2019 fire at Notre-Dame de Paris, and of course, the city's response to COVID-19. And on the single greatest global crisis of all, the climate emergency, Anne has been among the world's most influential leaders on urban climate action throughout her tenure. In 2015, during the COP21 summit, at which the historic Paris Agreement was adopted, she co-hosted the climate summit for local leaders with Michael Bloomberg. And this made a difference. It put pressure on national governments to be more ambitious. She chaired C40 Cities from 2016, 2019, and today she serves as the global ambassador for the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, the largest global alliance for city climate leadership. Please join me in welcoming Anne Hidalgo.
It's moving. Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words, dear Philipp, and thank you also, David, and all for the friends, my sister, because the mayor, we are sister, you know, and also my former deputy mayor, Dan Lert, is there, and we work together about the climate plan and the climate action of Paris, and now he's still deputy mayor in charge of mobility. Thank you also, Dan, and well, thank you so much for hosting me today. It is an honor to deliver this presentation for the first ever Nicky Gavron Memorial Lecture and to honor her climate legacy. You know, I'm Anne Hidalgo, I was mayor of Paris, but I was also before, like Nicky, deputy mayor for 13 years in Paris, and I met Nicky. I remember it was very inspiring for me to see this woman very engaged, very committed, and very, you know, open also to help and to share the experience with the women, young women, because I was a young woman in that time, and I'm very honored to be there with you and with the daughter and the family of Nicky. Thank you so much. Well, before to get into the core of today's topic on climate transformation, let me start with a brief introduction to see how well you know all Paris, my city, our city. Let me start with the basic. Paris has got 2.1 million people within the city limits, 7.1 million in the Greater Paris. 53% of Parisians are women. Nice. We are not a minority, we are a majority. But, also a young city, 1 in 2 Parisians is under 40 years old. Yes, 40 years is very young. You can see this room is very young. It's also a cosmopolitan and multicultural city, and on this map, and thank you, Matthew, because Matthew is working on with the slide. This map, you can get a sense of where in the world Parisians come from. 2 in 3 Parisians are born elsewhere. And a majority of Parisians born abroad come from Europe or North Africa. And I was myself born in Spain. Of course, Paris is also a cultural city with almost 300 museums. It has more museums than any other global cities. Sorry for London. Including, of course, the Louvre, the world's largest and most visited museum. Paris is also, and we are very proud of that, the global capital of cinema. It has today more cinema screens per inhabitant than any other city. It's mean anything. Everyone knows Paris also for its food. But did you know one thing? If you move to Paris, you have a 94% chance to live within a 5-minute walk of a boulangerie, bakery. It means the smells of fresh bread in the morning when you leave your home is a common experience of Parisian life. And it's a very nice experience. We have a very famous writer, Proust. He writes about the Madeleine de Proust. For the Parisian people, the croissant and the smells on the morning close to the bakery is one of the best memories we have. What is probably less known about Paris, far from its image of fashion and sophistication, is that it is also a city for everyone. 1 in 4 homes is social housing. 700,000 Parisians live in social housing. And since 2001, during my time at City Hall, at Paris City Hall, 120,000 new social housing units have been built. And we are proud about that, because it's not so easy to do that in a very capital and global city like Paris. And Paris is also a very generous city, and 1 in 4 Parisians does volunteer work. It's amazing, you know. 700,000 Parisians also are involved in civic action in the city. Is incredible. And even less known fact, Parisians are pet lovers. 1 in 10 people live with a cat or dog. But it's very interesting about the geography of the city. Cats win the battle, with twice more cats across the city. And cats' homes are more likely to be in the east of Paris, because in the east the apartments are smaller, and while Parisians also in the West District are more likely to have a dog, you know. Paris is also a very dense city, one of the densest cities in all of Europe. And you can see here how Paris compared to London is dense. Within the administrative limits of the city of Paris, it is about 4 times as dense as London. You can imagine. In one way, density can be very positive and also a major climate asset. It reduces distance, it limits land consumption, and it can support public transformation. But it can be a problem also. But because of that density, it was able to introduce during my second term as mayor the 15-minute city. The concept is simple. Every essential service, school, market, doctor, park, cultural venue, should be reachable within 15 minutes on foot or bicycle from your home. This is also a method for climate adaptation and social cohesion. Proximity is a very powerful climate tool at the city level, because a city where you can do most of your life within walking distance is a city that produces dramatically less carbon and less congestion. But for all its beauty, for all its culture, Paris has historically had far less green spaces than many comparable global capitals, and that is a problem. And it is not very common for Parisians to have their own private garden like you in London. This lack of green space is a real problem in the context of our climate emergency. As heat waves become more frequent, like today, 40 degrees in Paris today, more frequent and more dangerous, access to shade and nature is a matter of public health. Because Paris was built for 50 years, like so many of our cities, with one thing in mind, the car. 95% of public space used to be dedicated to the car. Reclaiming spaces from the car to give it back to pedestrians was one of the key actions of my term and of my team also as mayor of Paris. The transformation was key to reduce pollution and give to the Parisian more room for walking, cycling, meeting, and simply living. Everyone asked me, how were you able to achieve this? It was not so comfortable to achieve that, and Tony is also one of the actors with NGO in Paris. The NGO, the name is Respire, Breathe, and he helped me a lot in all these challenges. First, crisis can be used as catalyst for change, and this is very relevant. As we are experiencing one of the largest energy security crises the world has ever faced, which also means we have a window of opportunity to accelerate our climate ambition. In Paris, COVID gave us an unexpected opportunity to accelerate this transformation. I was able to fast-track cycling infrastructure in order to create a safer transport infrastructure for Parisians during the pandemic, always from the indoor confined metro, trains, and buses. And yes, if you build this new soft mobility infrastructure, people will change their habits and use it. In 5 years, because of those investments in cycling infrastructures, we saw a 240% surge in daily bicycle traffic in Paris. It was amazing to see that. It was amazing. We were like children when we saw that, because we make the infrastructure and the people come to the infrastructure with bicycles. But we were able to reclaim parking spaces and turn into green spaces to cool the city and make it more resilient to harsh weather like the one today, but also turning those spaces into cafe terraces for more people to enjoy, because in the city we have to enjoy to be together. We need to have these spaces and to be well together and happy together. And we did it. Terraces are the Paris that everyone has always loved, of course. The Olympics was another major catalyst which help us to accelerate. It's not my team, it's, they are the athletes, the champions, you know, the athletes, which help us accelerate our ecological transformation efforts. The Games gave us the political moment, and very, very important, the financial alignment and the public support to make that transformation happen. That alignment allowed my city to accomplish the equivalent of 2 mandates in terms of green transformation in a fraction of time. It's real. For 100 years, pollution prevented Parisians from swimming in their own river, and the Olympic Games set the deadlines to make the Seine swimmable again. Pedestrianizing the riverbank of the Seine was one of the first necessary steps to enable swimming infrastructure to be built, because we needed to have the access to the river, and before that there was a highway, and we needed to put out the cars, and then the next step was jumping and swimming in the river, and we did it. And reopening the Seine for swimming is part of the same transformation. It is about public health, about ecological restoration, about civic pride, and reclaiming the river as part of everyday urban life. And today is not in the River Seine, but in the Canal Saint-Martin, but it was the consequences of the cleaning the Seine. People is today swimming in the Canal Saint-Martin, and I think they save a lot of life, you know. It's a little difficult to manage the area. I was talking with my colleague, mayor of the 10th district in the Canal Saint-Martin, but it's really, it saves lives. For me, it's also a nature-based solution for climate action, and we have to look and implement nature-based solutions for climate adaptation. The School Streets Initiative, Rue aux Écoles, was another key initiative to reclaim public space from the car. In Paris, we have 600 public schools around the city. And the idea was straightforward. We targeted more than 300 streets where those schools are located. We closed them to cars, even the cars, and we made them pedestrian streets. And you can see here the map of all these streets. And in many cases, we redesign those pedestrian streets with greenery. This creates new safe spaces for children to play, for parents to exchange, for fostering social cohesion. With the Rue aux Écoles initiative, the school becomes more than a building. It becomes the heart of the neighborhood. I said in my project about 15-minute cities that the school is the capital of the neighborhood. But let me be honest with you. This transformation was certainly not an easy battle, you can imagine. We faced powerful lobbies, torrent of misinformation, and campaign of intimidation designed to make us back down. So, what you do when the lobbies are against you in the face of disinformation? Well, you build alliances. And first and foremost, with scientists, with doctors, with NGOs, those alliances are politically necessary, essential to make your action legitimate and present it to citizens. But you also build alliances internationally. And here, of course, I cannot overstate the role of international city networks and the C40 networks. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, all colleagues. Because it was a wonderful contribution to the global climate action landscape, and they helped me a lot to resist to all these attacks. And I'm also today as a global ambassador, the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy, another very important network, part of the C40 family. To accomplish what I did in Paris with my team, I learned enormously from fellow mayors who took this ecological journey before me. Because the mayor, we think as mayors, you know, when we are in other city, we are looking for all the solution, and we say, oh yes, this solution is very well, I bring back this solution to my city, and I want to do the same in my city. And it was able to show Parisians that we were not alone in doing this. It was very important in the narrative, in my narrative to the Parisian, that cities like Copenhagen, Tokyo, Vancouver had successfully done this before us. That was not an experiment, that it could work in practice. But most importantly, when building alliances, start with citizens. In Paris, public participation was key to make all this transformation politically survivable. In 2025, in the final citizen vote of my mandate, we asked Parisians a simple question. Should we pedestrianize and green 500 more streets? 66% said yes, and you can see in this map, in the west it's more difficult, you know, you see this red part of the 16th district, but you can see the map in Paris. It was very, very supporting of these ideas. Local referendums can be very powerful tools to give people ownership of new programs. But ultimately, what gave legitimacy is to this ecological transformation, what not just votes. Most of all, it was the visible daily evidence of transformation. Visuals often speak louder than words, and you can see here before and after visual journey of this ecological transformation of my beautiful city of Paris. You can see the riverbank. It was a hard battle. The schools, the riverbank, and so yes. Clearly, this green transformation can make cities more beautiful, more livable, more human. In Paris, this also been measurable, and pollution and traffic were reduced by more than 40%. As you can see on this slide, nitrogen oxide emissions fell by 50% over 20 years. What we are talking about here is not only pollution reduction. We were talking about thousands of illnesses prevented. We are talking about many lives saved. The work is not finished, but Paris, a complex city, has proven it can be done. My political party and my political coalition with Green and Communist was re-elected 3 months ago, and the new city administration has committed to continuing this journey. This is Paris that is being built, like I hope many other cities, a greener city, more peaceful, more just, more resilient than the one we inherited. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anne. This was the kind of energy, the kind of visuals, the kind of change we needed to see on a day like this. And we all want to jump into this clean water now. We are now joined by our wonderful panel, and I want to introduce our speakers first and then build on what you have just heard. Let me introduce first Yvonne Aki-Sawyer. She's the mayor of Freetown, the capital of Sierra Leone, and it's a position she has held since 2018 and to which she was re-elected for a second term in June 2023. She's the first woman to lead the city in decades, bringing a rare combination of financial expertise and grassroots determination to the role. And we just earlier learned you're a graduate from the LSE. A chartered accountant by training, she built a career spanning more than 25 years in the UK's financial services sector before returning to Sierra Leone during the 2014 Ebola outbreak, where she served as Director of Planning at the National Ebola Response Centre. As mayor, she's best known for her ambitious data-driven Transform Freetown agenda. Her achievements include Freetown's first wastewater treatment plant, the digitalization of the city's property rate system, and the planting of more than 1 million trees through the Freetown, the Tree Town campaign. Bravo. She also serves as co-chair of C40 Cities. Her leadership has earned her wide recognition, including the 2024 German Africa Award and honors from Forbes, Time magazine, and the BBC's 100 Women. Kate Gallego is the mayor of Phoenix, Arizona, a position she has held since 2019, and she sits on C40's steering committee of mayors. Re-elected in November 2024 to what will be her final term, she will serve through spring 2029. She is only the second woman ever elected mayor to Phoenix and one of the youngest big city mayors in the United States. A graduate of Harvard with an MBA from Wharton School, Kate worked in economic development for the Salt River Project, one of Arizona's largest utility, before winning a seat on the Phoenix City Council in 2013. She represented the city's 8th district until 2019, when she stepped down to run for mayor. As mayor, she has made economic growth and sustainability the hallmarks of her tenure. She brought a $65 billion semiconductor manufacturing investment to the city, established the city's Office of Heat Response and Mitigation, we all need that now, and helped make Phoenix one of the most sustainable desert cities in the nation. She has consistently championed high-wage jobs creation and long-term secure water supply for the region. Her leadership extends beyond the city. She serves as chair of Climate Mayors, a bipartisan network of US mayors committed to climate action. Now, I want to build on your last slides, Anne, and sort of my first set of questions wanted to bring back C40 and the role C40 played for ambitious mayors like all of yourselves. And if we can directly come to Yvonne, because Anne, you kind of answered what C40 did during those periods of heat, the coalition building, to protect yourself against the attacks. And we want to hear from first Yvonne and also from Kate, how this played out in your context. So the Freetown, the Tree Town, wonderful brand, became one of the most celebrated urban climate initiatives in the world. And it was built on citizen participation. This is not just top-down mandate led by the mayor, it's more than that. So how did this design of a sense of shared ownership protect you also against attacks of the program, and where did C40 come into the picture?
Thank you. And thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Congratulations to the family. With regards to Freetown and Treetown, citizen participation was absolutely central from a number of angles. The first is to recognize that Freetown is, we're talking about density, it's 82 square kilometers, it's very small, and it's seen its population double in the last 13 years, from 1 million to 2 million projected for 2028. So when that happens, and we are in a unique position as a city of not, and Mark is smiling because he knows what I'm about to say, we are in a unique position as a city of not having the key mandates of land use planning and building permit issuance. Those sit with the central government. And as you can imagine, if it sits centrally, it doesn't get done. So it doesn't get done. It doesn't get done, and that has serious consequences. It means that influx of people are putting the landscape under pressure because there's no development control. So when it comes to the citizen participation, first of all was a sense of ownership, really important for the protection of the trees. So each tree is tagged, it's planted locally by community-based organizations, principally young people and women. Each one is tagged, it's uploaded onto a digital database, but in order for it to be protected and not just to be cut down for someone to make space for housing, we have ambassadors. The very growers also work alongside tree monitors, tree trackers, and they get paid using mobile money as they track their trees over a period of time. So citizen participation is key for implementation, it's key for maintenance, and I think it's also been really an amazing part of ensuring that disinformation about this exercise is pushed back on. So I'm in the opposition party, something that Anne experienced, but you know, Anne has the benefit of legislation that means systems and processes are there, strong. We have not quite the same situation. So being in opposition can mean you get a lot of pushback. Having citizen participation and ownership means that can counter narrative that the trees are ghost trees and don't exist. I'll close by saying this. Through C40 Cities support, working with Bloomberg, we've been able to, we won the Bloomberg Global Mayors Challenge, which gave us access to $1 million to take our trees planted into the carbon credit market. So we're moving now through the carbon accreditation process, and we are literally 3 months away from getting to that milestone. What stands between us and that right now is government. But the good news is, just as you talked about alliances, I smiled, because this afternoon I spoke to the Minister of Lands, and we had been speaking to, we spoke to some other people, won't mention, hi up there, and we are getting support. We are hopeful that we will get through that we've been able to say citizens really want this, everyone will get credit. That accreditation will enable us to have investment to ensure it's sustainable. We've planted 1.2 million. Our target is 4 million by 2028, but it needs to go to tens of millions in the coming years. And that can only happen if we're able to unlock the carbon offsets through the carbon market accreditation.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. We're already hearing sort of this powerful combination, what was referred to also by David in relation to what Nicky led so much. It's this global connection with grassroots and these two forces coming together. Kate, so we have heard before, I mean, we all need to now learn from Phoenix. Desert city, extreme heat. This is cool for you. It sits at the sharp end of climate risk. Extreme heat is no future threat. It happens daily. You created the first publicly funded office of heat response and mitigation in the United States already in 2021, which is a striking institutional bet. I wonder, what resistance did you face in making the case for this type of institution? that sort of needed to communicate the scale of the problem to residents and businesses, accept projections around global climate change in a context where this is still being challenged by the highest political leaders in your country. And again, how did this association with C40 help?
Wonderful. Well, it's such a pleasure to be with you here and with two incredible leaders celebrating a third incredible leader. Well, many, many incredible leaders in the room. That's fabulous. So I have an environmental degree by background, as you heard, and really ran for office through a path of sustainability. My early community involvement was serving first on our Environmental Quality Commission, which is a citizen body that advises the Phoenix Mayor and Council, and then our 10-year plan, which set out the vision where our voters approved that we wanted to try to be the most sustainable desert city. A very supported document. We just went back to the voters and got 79% approval. So the community is with me, which is a big deal because Phoenix is a very politically diverse city. We are about a third by registration of voters Democratic, which is my party. So opposition mayor again, a trend here. A third independent, so people who are not affiliated with any party, and a third Republican, so the party that Donald Trump currently leads. So very politically diverse, but that's very similar to the United States. So I think that's a lesson. If we can get it done in Phoenix, hopefully that gives hope for other communities to do the same. I think language really matters and understanding what people's challenges are. Heat is a really useful framing in Phoenix, and it was a good way to address both mitigation and adaptation around climate change. We're using the language that people in my city use. It's too hot here. No one, well, it'd be very unusual for someone to say, the greenhouse gas emissions are impacting me too much today. We've gone to our vote. So Phoenix is a young city. We were created in an era where our founders were very worried about monopolies, particularly railroads. So our governing documents have lots of tools to stop big corporations, and then we're very democratic. You can put things on the ballot very easily. A single person in the city of Phoenix can have the entire council, the entire city elected body vote, just one person. So very, very democratic and inclusive. We vote on a lot of things, so the people have to be with me, and I get a very accurate census of how I'm doing very regularly. We have funded a lot of this work through general obligation bonds, which are backed with property tax, so people's homes are contributing to this work. We do a big package together, so we build libraries, we build transportation infrastructure, and we went and we did public opinion polling, and the heat work was the second most popular thing of all that we were doing. So things like libraries that are widely supported, but heat really met people where they were, and they thought it was something we could make a difference on, that we could build infrastructure that would make the city cooler and more comfortable, and it would make their lives better so that it was worth paying property taxes, which is generally something people want to keep very low in our community. In case you were wondering, the most popular thing in Phoenix is our firefighters. So people were very happy to build new fire stations, emergency response, getting the healthcare you need when you need it was the most popular. But heat was second. That would not be true of every climate intervention. And so I think we were very strategic about that. But also we have a good record. We've done a variety of different innovative things. We've done a lighter colored coating on the pavement, which was traditionally black asphalt, so it doesn't absorb heat as much, and particularly important overnight. Our natural desert environment cools dramatically naturally, but it's lighter colors that don't keep the heat in, and when we started putting black asphalt, we saw that the city did not cool overnight the way it had done before. So we're mimicking our natural environment, but also using technology to do that, and it makes people's communities more comfortable. This is probably funny for you that we do, except that I'm saying it this week, but we've been able to have corridors in our downtown where it's designed so that wind flows through, and that creates a much more comfortable environment. We have building codes called our Walkable Urban Code, where we say 75% has to be shade cover. so that, and shade makes a huge difference in Phoenix. We're not a humid community, so the shade really does make it more comfortable. We've partnered with tech companies to figure out where people are walking and then tried to put trees where we can make the biggest difference. And that's, again, using new tech, but the oldest tools out there, tree and shade. And we've used it to tell the story of the city. I'm blessed to be mayor of a city that has, in my opinion, a great name. We're named from the mythical bird that rose from the ashes. In our case, our Native American communities dug gravity-fed canals that brought water to the farmers in the Phoenix area, and then Phoenix was reborn with that water infrastructure, so they picked the name of the beautiful bird. But I gotta tell you, a Phoenix makes beautiful public art. And so we've worked with Bloomberg Philanthropies and others to build beautiful shade that is public art. We have cool startups now that have joined our interest in innovation, and so we make some of the most advanced coating that can be emissive, so not maintain the heat, but create a more comfortable community. So we're creating great jobs. There's no one from Los Angeles here, yes?
No, you're safe.
Okay, good. I don't want to get, Los Angeles is a very important city in C40. But they have started doing the cool pavement coating in their community. But we do so much more of it that the name of the color is Phoenix Gray. We're the second largest city in our region, but they're the first, so there's a little bit of competition, and we like it when we're a little bit ahead of the neighbors. Phoenix is sort of a startup city. We're very young, but we're willing to try new things and innovate, and I think that culture has been helpful, as well as just listening to what my residents say. When I poll, what would you like me to do on global climate change? It's not as big of a priority, but if I say protect our water, more solar, address heat, then people see why it's going to make their lives better.
Kate, thank you so much. We will come back to this, but this idea of narratives around climate change adaptation, working in a much more depolarizing way, the use of the reference to heat and water. There was the Global Commission on the Economics of Water that was so strong on the point that water is something that brings people together. I think temperature as well, and it's good to hear from a context where you do have these political polarizations and you're nevertheless able to do productive, progressive policy. Now there's a subtext of tonight's event, and on that end I'm absolutely privileged to be allowed to sit on this very panel, because there's a very striking pattern across C40 and beyond. Some of the most ambitious climate cities are led by women. How do you think about gender and climate action and leadership in your own experience? Is it relevant or overstated? Does it depend on the city? Let's hear from Anne again, who also used the map of the majority female city. What do you think about the gender question and climate action?
I think that the difference between men and women is about the experience of our own life, you know. And the women about the power are, since the beginning, not so legitimated, no. Women have to prove every day, since we were very little girl, that we have the skill, we are able to work, to have responsibilities, and to be in a high position, to lead in cities, in everywhere, you know. And I think the difference is that when we, for me, when I access to this position as mayor of Paris, I said to myself, okay, it's so difficult to access to that. Then you are there in this beautiful office, because my office was so beautiful in Paris, in the city hall. But you are not just here because it's so well to be here in this beautiful office. You are here because you have to change the life of a lot of people, and you have to be also a model for younger and for the girl, because we need to give this window, this opportunity to a lot of young girls. And I think that the difference, but sorry for the men, you are so wonderful because you are in this room and you are all very engaged with climate change. But I think, in my experience, women are more committed with the long-term policies, you know. And it's very interesting because a lot of women are very committed with climate change, because climate change needs to think about long-term policies. And also I think about how we bring the people, the citizens in the room for the decision. I think in our experience as women, it's very important to bring together, to build alliances, because we know that alone it's impossible to do anything. And I think the difference is there, you know, and have more women engage in the cities, at the economic level also, and engage about climate change is very important, because the women are, sorry for the men, maybe more courageous, because it's so tough. You don't believe what Yvonne or Kate, myself, we faced before to be there. You know, it's incredible. You are very resistant, very resilient, and also we need to be courageous to face what we face. But at the end, it's so, you know, so beautiful to change. And when the people came to you and say, you know, you changed my life with these policies, with the new apartment we have with my children, in the social housing you build, you changed my life, and you changed maybe the destiny of my children. When you receive that, wow, it's so strong, and you forget all the opposition, all the disinformation, defamation, etc., and you say, yes, we did it, and now people has a new opportunity, and always I think about the young girl also, because it's so difficult, you know, it's so difficult. And just I finish with that. When I was elected as first deputy mayor in 2001, it was the implementation of the new law in France about gender equality in the election for the municipal level. And it was so nice, because we came, a lot of women in the council, in the municipality. We were not 50%, but we were almost 40% in the council, and it was so nice, because when the number of women is growing up, the policies are different, and the topic we bring into the debates, in the public debates, were different. For example, I was deputy mayor in charge of equality, and I worked in my first term as deputy mayor about the violence against the women. And a lot of people say to me, journalists also say to me, this is not a political issue. It's just a private issue. I said, no, then it became a political issue, because we, women, we want to bring this issue as a main political issue. And I think it's very important to have more women, more, and I think also that the democracy is well when we share between women and men, because we are not a minority. We are just a majority.
Thank you. Thank you. Yvonne, a very different context, same question to you.
The gender question. I want to build on what Anne just said. It's our experience, but I'm going to take it from a different angle. Our lived experience for many women, and I'm thinking particularly of where I come from, and I should actually just put that down as a foundational sort of premise. Cities are very different. There is Paris, there is Freetown, there's Joburg, there's Schwani. All cities don't look like New York and Singapore. So it's important to understand that when we're talking about climate, we also have to have that appreciation that the challenges are different, the experiences are different, but the goal is the same. For us to ensure that emissions are reduced, we're not big emitters as the African continent, but we are major recipients of the consequences of the climate disaster. So that said, where does gender come into climate action? Well, as I already said, we are major recipients of the consequences. So whether it's flooding, whether it's landslides, whether it's extreme heat, most times the most affected, the most vulnerable are women and children. So when it comes to climate action and our leadership in climate action, as a woman, perhaps one of the things that is kind of now accepted is that our lenses are different. I'm going to look at a situation and see it from the lens of a woman and consequently seek to bring in policies that address that. So for example, I talked about the deforestation. I talked about it from the perspective of housing, but the other angle to that is 82% of cooking fuel in my city is currently wood or charcoal from wood. That means with that number of people, the pressure on our forest, on our wood is immense. We need a solution because it's not just the deforestation, which also affects water. We have one of the highest rainfalls in the region, but sadly, if you cut down your trees and your geography as ours is it's a very beautiful city, by the way. If you've not been to Freetown, you must come. We sit between the Atlantic Ocean and a range of mountains. When I was growing up, and the thing that the single factor that most contributed to my decision to run for mayor was the fact that by 2018, those green trees were disappearing. So that's why I ran for office, to try and do something about it. But I come back to the gender question. When you have no trees and heavy rainfall, it just runs off. Means you're not getting your water tables replenished. Means water everywhere, but not a drop to drink, because it's all just going into the ocean. It's creating mudslides, it's creating landslides, and so on. So as a female leader, I think the difference that we bring, the addition, the complement, because it is all about complementarity. The complement is that I see a situation like that, and I think about what it means to women. I'm going to give you two stories. One, a situation that I've experienced far too many times. After a heavy rain, in fact, there was a time, I'm better at it now, but there's a time early in my tenure as mayor when it rained, my heart would be beating really, really fast because I'd be thinking about what's happening now, what disaster. Because too often I would get a call and there'd been a landslide, and too many times I would go and give my sympathies to a mother crying because they've lost a child who's tried to cross a gutter and been washed away because of the torrent and the mudslides and the landslides. So thinking about what do you do? So like you say, there is no greater joy than meeting someone who says, we used to have flooding all the time, but the mitigation activities that you brought meant we haven't had a flood this year. We haven't had a flood last year. Thinking again about the women in the deforestation, I talked about the cooking fuel. It's not just about water shortage, it's also about carbon inhalation when you cook with that. Respiratory illness is the third highest killer in my city. So what's the solution from a climate angle? Thinking about a circular economy. And this will sound bizarre. You thought what you said was bizarre. What I'm saying is going to be even more bizarre, trust me. We did not have a wastewater treatment plant in the city. And it's easy when you don't run government or not involved not to know that. Nobody thinks, you ever think, where do the vacuum trucks go? If you probably don't use vacuum trucks. You probably have an underground sewage. Well, we have vacuum trucks. And I never thought, where did they go? When I became mayor, I found out they just get dumped in the open. We built a wastewater treatment plant within 18 months. And that wastewater treatment plant, with that, we're able to separate the solid from the liquid, if you get my drift. And with that solid, after a number of years of trying to get this right, we are now going to scale with making 15 tons of briquettes a month that will replace charcoal. So we're using that now, we're piloting it with the volumes we have, and it's going down a treat. Greater calorific value, burns longer, no smoke, so health benefits, economic benefits, climate benefits. So these are things that you think about when you're a woman in leadership, because you're thinking about what a woman is experiencing every day.
Thank you so much. Kate.
So one of the reasons I think it's wonderful that Mayor Hidalgo did the first Nicky Gavron lecture is Nicky always wanted to make sure women had a seat at the table, and Mayor Hidalgo has done the same things. I was elected mayor in my 30s. It's very intimidating to be at the table with the mayors of London and Freetown and Paris. And she always made it clear that I belong there and that I should step up. There have been times when people are like, maybe we'll skip the mayor of Phoenix, and she will, she'll, make sure that I can feel welcome. So I'm so grateful that you do that and that you advocate for women. She's going. One of the mayors from Chile was telling me she's going to go to Chile soon, and while she's there, meet with the female mayors, which will be incredible. Hopefully she's going to go to Phoenix soon and meet with the female mayors in my region. But really like a global leader and bringing so many others with her. If you're the first to go through the door, you got to make sure other people come behind you, and she's absolutely doing that. So thank you. For me, I was elected to city council, and then I went through a very difficult time in my life where I was pregnant with my first child, and my marriage fell apart. My mom was diagnosed with cancer, and it was just sort of like 1 year I felt like I was on top of everything, and then everything felt like it was falling apart. I had wanted to run for mayor, and I knew my predecessor was going to depart to run for a different office, but I felt like as a young woman who wasn't married and had a child that I shouldn't go forward and try, in part because there were so few role models. So at that time, Phoenix is the 5th largest city at the time. In the 15 largest cities in our country, not a single female mayor. And if you looked at the other big cities, New York never had a female mayor at that time. Los Angeles had never had a female mayor. Other large cities, you could go on and on. Philadelphia, never a female mayor. So looking around and just not having a lot of people who looked like me in these offices, like even when I pictured what a mayor looked like, I pictured like a very tall guy with poofy hair. You know there are mayors with... We got some mayors with great hair. But I had never lived in a city with a female mayor. The previously elected female mayor of Phoenix was elected before I was born. So it was really difficult to see. And I guess you know how the story ends. I did finally end up deciding to run, but I was my own worst enemy on gender. I do think you need to have mayors with wide variety of backgrounds, because whatever your background is, you see different things. And so I've seen things and been able to do different things just because of what my life has been like. Some of those are not related to climate at all. Like now we have great nursing facilities and the airport and the convention center and all the city facilities, because I was a young mom while I was trying to multitask and run for mayor, and your kid comes with you sometimes. But others one of the things I'm most excited that I did this year is we have been the largest city in our country without a primary medical school. And it was a nice opportunity to learn from all the other medical schools all over the world and try to do some things different. Generally in our country, cities don't fund medical schools, but it wasn't happening any other way. And so I redirected some money that used to go to professional sports facilities and and put it in the medical school with our great partner, Arizona State University. Watch out for ASU because they are coming to London this year, opening I guess they've opened a campus here, but we're really excited. They're my key partners on sustainability. And one of the things we asked for them to do was in the medical school, put the impacts of heat and climate on the human body at the forefront. So we're really excited for that. And then we've asked them to have a focus on women's health. It's a very special medical school. It's a tech-focused one, so you'll get an engineering degree and a medical degree. And we've learned that so many of the medical devices out there, they're designed with men as the default. And that's everything from wearable technologies like smart rings or smart watches to implantable devices. I have a great team with me at the city, and our council is now super majority women. And so we were able to say, absolutely, we want women's health to be at the forefront of this medical school. I don't think that would have happened if we hadn't elected a diverse group of women. And don't worry, men, there are still plenty of medical devices out there that'll work for you. But I think who's at the table does change the outcome. And so it's good to be at the table with you.
So we will open this up. I will come back to one question about disinformation, which is, of course, a subtitle, so that we have to cover. But let's take 3 questions from the live audience in person and then colleagues which are on Zoom. If you please say who you are and be very brief with your question. And then we'll take 3 in a row. I want to see sort of hands up so I can... Okay, we have one gentleman here. Let's make this also gender mixed a bit. Over there, yes, a woman over there. And let's start, and then we have the third one.
Hello, good evening. I don't know if, as David said, France is going to win the World Cup, but I know that Paris definitely wins on pastries and viennoiserie. So thank you very much, Madame Hidalgo, for the reminder. My name is Gauthier Well, and I run the Green Londoner, a green media platform covering the green transition in the city. I had a question for you, Madame Hidalgo, but also for Yvonne and Kate. Paris has introduced many changes over the years, greening, green spaces, investing in infrastructure, cycling, engaging with residents. And you mentioned that you faced some backlash and some resistance at times. And I know that there are local leaders in the room, and I just wanted to know if you had a piece of advice on how to face this backlash. Could be from other politicians, could be from residents. So,
Thank
but
you.
also
That's
applies to
a very
Yvonne
important and
Kate.
clear question.
Thank you very much.
The lady over there, first. Yeah, please.
My name is Natalia Uribe. I'm a city director at BDP, and I'm a former student of the LSE Cities. Today, I have the pleasure to welcome someone that presented a research on 121 cities that have been built from scratch in the last 25 years, and $1.2 trillion have been committed. So all of you have been transforming all of these cities, but 121 cities have been built from scratch in 42 countries. You as a mayor, where would you start if you have as a mandate to start a city from scratch?
Thank you very much. And one final one at the very end. Yes, please. LSE student, I think. Please stand up and introduce yourself. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kavya. I am a student at LSE, and I have the pleasure.
The microphone isn't working. We may want to change it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kavya. I am a student at LSE, and I took Philipp's class just a couple months ago. My question is for, as did many people in the room, my question is for Mayor Hidalgo. I just had a question about your slide with the social housing transformation. Really impressive to see how much housing you were able to accomplish in your time. But I noticed that much of the housing seemed to be in the periphery, les banlieues. So my question was, like, was that a strategic decision? Was it more because of lack of space in the center of the city? For a while in London, I had the privilege of living in a council flat right by Waterloo Station, and anytime I told anyone that I lived there, they were boggled their mind that someone could live so centrally and pay £700 in rent. So I'm just wondering, like, what the motivation or the ingredients around how the distribution of the council housing ended up, or sorry, the social housing ended up in Paris.
Thank you very much. So I think the backlash question, you should all, the three of you answer, and then you can pick maybe one of the others as well. The backlash.
About
very brief.
Backlash, yes. It was so hard, you know, because when the backlash is so strong and we face that, including in your team, the doubt came, you know, and it is like a poison because everybody around you say maybe we are not on the right side, and you have to ask to you this question also. But if you want to face that, you need to be very strong. You need to be very clear. You need to have a study and work about your decision and about the implementation. You have to prepare that, because if you don't do that, you can resist to the backlash. And then you have to have a big alliances. And for example, about my first very strong battle about the pedestrianization of the riverbank of the Seine, I bring with me also doctors, scientists, citizens, people talking about the consequences of air pollution, about asthma, about all what the people were facing. And you need to build that. And if you alone, you cannot resist, and you don't survive to this backlash.
Yvonne.
I think I'll use an example of the cable car. So we have no public transport, no public mass transit. With the support of C40 Cities, after several years of trying to raise capital to do it, we got the finance to do a full feasibility study. So what Anne is saying, the data, the technical assessments, the economic viability, all of that was done. And we then had the opportunity to finance and build it. But we had a massive campaign, which still is ongoing, of discrediting it and getting the public to mock it. So when it comes to that backlash, which is often, well, almost always political, it's not, in our case, not because a cable car would not revolutionize transport emissions, improve health, improve economic productivity, improve access for women. It would do all of those things, but it was also seen to be giving political capital. And because of that, there was a massive push from certain quarters of government for it not to happen. How do you get around that? You just continue to persist. There are no easy answers for backlash, but having the information, using communication effectively, using Mark. You know, I had Mark in Freetown meeting the vice president. And with all of that, we are still not where we need to be, but we are not giving up. Because I think what keeps us going in the face of backlash is knowing that the reality is our residents' lives will be greatly improved by the interventions that we're working towards. So we just can't give up. You keep pushing back. As they push at you, you push back.
Thank you very much. Before we come to Kate, just we want to run a bit over. We started late, so we'll go up to 8:10. If you need to leave, please do it quietly. But Kate, over to you.
Wonderful. So I think it's important to have fun while you're winning these victories. I'll tell one story that illustrates that. So when I was on the city council, my first sort of major citywide achievement was we go to our voters, as I mentioned a lot. We did a citywide campaign to raise the sales tax, in this case, to support our transportation system. So at the time in my country, it was the largest voter commitment to expanding mass transit, which, if you're familiar with cities like New York that have much larger and older systems, is a really big deal for a city like Phoenix, and not obvious that we'd be able to do it. And again, it was a tax increase. So people really have to be with you to do that. So it was tripling our light rail system, which is our sustainable electric mass transit system, and a major commitment to our bus system. The bus is, I think, very widely supported, but the light rail, the mass transit with fixed rail, had significant political opposition on the right. So I got elected mayor, and then while I was running, people collected signatures and effectively did a recall for the light rail portion of our transportation plan. So it would be light rail alone on the ballot. The general conventional wisdom is that might be less popular than a more comprehensive plan. There is a network called the Koch brothers network. There are some industrialists in the United States who have a lot of automotive and more traditional fossil fuel companies, and they're very active in the American political sphere. They had just put a bunch of money into Nashville, where Nashville was trying to do sustainable transportation, and their voters had defeated that. So they had a record of success at the time. We went out and did public opinion polling, and what we learned is that younger voters care a lot about our sustainability, our climate, and moving people, including vulnerable people, to where they're going. But it was going to be an unusually timed election, an off year in the summer. And so young people vote at much, much lower rates in that election. So we had to figure out how to communicate with young people. We did a bunch of research about the messages the other side was using. They were saying, if we just took all the money that Phoenix wants to spend on mass transit and the light rail system, we could buy everyone in the city a Tesla. And so they were telling, it's too expensive, it's too expensive. And we did a bunch of research to explain why this made sense, and a one-time investment in capital that would be much more affordable and a game changer for so many people. We got really good research that really countered all the points on the other side. And then we gave it to a comedian who's very famous in the United States, Hassan Minhaj. And he did a comedy special that really picked apart what the other side was saying with facts, with real data and real science. But it allowed us to then put that online and put it on different social media and really get it out to the people we needed to reach and get them excited about going out to vote and supporting us. And in the end, in Phoenix, Arizona, the light rail portion won by more than the original plan.
Wonderful. So that saves my question about misinformation. Get the comedian in and talk LSE data. We need a microphone at the top for two final questions from our participants. Oh, you have one online. Please, Brendan.
Okay, so the cost of living crisis across the world is pushing climate change agenda down the list. How would you advise policymakers to continue pushing climate action during the cost of living crisis?
Thank you.
And the second question, how do you think cities can work with artists and storytellers to better communicate the climate agenda and policies to their citizens?
Great. Would I suggest just pick one final round, and let's start with you.
Okay. Today, we are working about a new system about financing the policies in the cities, more in the global south than in the north, And we are working. We have. I'm participating to a group with Jeffrey Sachs, the economist, and also the former mayor of Rio, myself, and a group of people thinking about a new architecture of finance. Because we need, of course, to reinvent the system and give to the cities and in the global south the opportunity to bring and to have guarantees for the investment, because the investment are very, very important. But I think also, because we're talking about technology and the solution coming from the technology, and we need a lot of budget and money for that. But we can also, and we are working in all our cities about circular economy, about low-tech solutions, about also nature-based solution. I think it's very, very important to have that also in mind if you want to find the solution to mitigate, for the mitigation, but also for the adaptation of our cities.
Thank you. Just to mix it up, Kate?
Wonderful. I think we do, on the affordability question, really need to make sure we have climate solutions that help make people's lives affordable. One of the ones that's most popular in Phoenix is we're putting solar on top of our social housing, and then we show people on their bill they can see the energy bill go down, and they also have more shaded, comfortable places for recreation or for parking, so you really see the difference, and it's easy for folks to get on board with that, and just find ways to make life better. In Phoenix, we're a real leader in doing more of our construction indoors. This helps recruit a construction workforce because a lot of people don't want to work outdoors when the temperatures are like this, but it's also allowed us to do a more controlled environment where we can really get the insulation right, and then it could be quickly installed. So for example, we'll make hospital rooms indoors, and it's allowed us to do much better insulation, energy efficiency, and then their little pods they can then install with a truck. And so the way it's reducing people's energy bills, it's making their quality of life better. These jobs tend to be high skilled, so we're getting people's incomes up and meeting people's needs, but the carbon in the buildings goes down dramatically.
Thank you. Yvonne, last one.
I'm going to go back to the question that was asked about the 42 cities that are being built. Was it 42?
121 new cities built from scratch as a greenfield.
Great. So your question is what's happening, what would be the best way to start? Since I'm from the Global South, I'll say now we build with nature. That if I was planning a city now, we plan with nature. We make sure there's access and we use the 15-minute concept. That's the future. Leaving the big infrastructure behind, closing the gap that we've created between humans and nature.
So thank you so much. That brings to a close our panel, but not the event, because I'd now like to invite Mark Watts, we can remain seated here, to give a closing remark. Mark Watts is the Executive Director of C40, named as the Times 100 Climate Leader in 2023. Mark helped establish C40 in 2005. In fact, that was with Nicky Gavron together during his time in London City Government, and was appointed Executive Director of the organization in 2013. Since then, C40 has grown rapidly in scope and ambition. It's the envy of any city network in the world, whether they work on climate or not. Mark has been a thought leader and a doer on climate since the early 2000s, and was the Climate and Sustainable Transport Advisor to the first Mayor of London, Ken Livingstone, I love this quote, the London Evening Standard described him as the intellectual force behind Ken Livingstone's drive to make London a leading light of the battle against global warming. Over to you.
Thank you, Philip, and what a wonderful evening this has been. I don't want it to end, and I think it's been such a fantastic tribute to Nicky. I hope Sarah and Jess agree. I think she would have been absolutely delighted with this evening. She would, like me, she'd have been making copious notes. I hope, like everyone, she would have been going home with hundreds of new ideas. And I know for absolutely certain she would be itching for me to stop speaking so that she could start networking. It was pretty much her favourite hobby. But I do want to reflect just a little bit on what we've heard tonight, because when Philip and I were sitting down and thinking how we could pay tribute to Nicky, someone we loved and worked with so much, there was only one name on both of our lips when we thought about who we would like to give the inaugural lecture, Anne Hidalgo. And Nicky was such an admirer of your work, and as you know, and I think just listening to you tonight, so much of what you have achieved and delivered in Paris and globally were the things that Nicky was really passionate about. I can't go through the whole list, but that reclaiming streets from cars and giving them back to people, cycling, overtaking car use in Paris. School streets, Nicky was so passionate about space for children. I remember being educated by Nicky as a young man without children on the need for play spaces for children and why that was so important in planning policy. The 15-minute city clean air, which I worked with Shirley Rodriguez on in creating with Nicky on the first low emission zone in London. She would have been very envious of swimmable rivers, swimmable Seine, which we have not quite achieved. And I have to say as well, I've worked with Anne. I've had the privilege of working for Anne when she was the chair of C40 and watching numerous Anne Hidalgo lectures. You have seen one of the very best. And with slide. But, you know, I think so. Having Anne here, absolutely the perfect inaugural lecture, but to have not one but three incredible female climate leaders and mayors on this panel. And you know, there isn't time to go through everything, but I think, you know, Yvonne, the Freetown, Treetown, the whole world now knows about, you know, something Nicky greatly admired. And indeed, in her latter years, she was very passionately pushing the case for the protection of the green belt in London. I think many of us here were lobbied by Nicky about exactly that subject and would have loved to hear what you said tonight. And Kate, you know, reminding us that you're an environmental scientist by background. Nicky really respected an expert, but particularly an expert that got stuff done and knew how to take those big conceptual ideas down to a level that really delivers things that are tangible for people. So I think a wonderful celebration of female city leadership tonight, of role models. I think very much like Philip and David, I feel just privileged to be part of this. But thinking back to where David started us tonight, I very much recognise that Nicky, the charming, persuasive, relentless. I think she would be looking out here and on one hand seeing so many friends, she would also see a room full of people she could lobby. But I'd add to that list of three. I mean, the other, there's so many things that I certainly gained from working with Nicky, but every day with Nicky, I felt educated, but also constantly supported. And I think, reflecting on what each of the mayors has reflected on, unfortunately, I have to say, a particular facet of female and not so much male leadership, that willingness to support colleagues, not compete with them. I think it's a thing us men can learn from when we do our jobs. So I think, just reflecting on everything that was said tonight, it's so clear to me also how much Nicky's footprint remains on this sector, our work. Ricky and I were just with Mayor Sadiq Khan in Singapore, where he was accepting on London's behalf the prestigious Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize, recognising London's strategic leadership, transformative urban development. But so much of that focus was on things that Nicky had really started and inspired when she was deputy mayor from 20 odd years ago. And I know Mayor Khan was very disappointed he couldn't be here tonight, but certainly sends his thoughts. So thank you all very much for coming, being part of this. Thank you for helping keep Nicky's extraordinary legacy alive. We refer to in C40, there's lots of C40 colleagues here, as the mother of C40. And indeed, in our office in Shoreditch, we have named our main meeting room in Nicky's honour. So thank you. Thanks also to Philip, to Ricky, the LSE Cities team, for hosting us tonight and for partnering on this. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the London Climate Action Week, and hopefully see you next year for the next Nicky Gavron.